Liftoff of mission 41B, first flight of the orbiter Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Welcome to the Health or High Water Podcast.
Welcome to the Health or High Water Podcast. With your host, I'm Brett Hutari, and here with Trip Parks, head professionals and owners of Ascend Performance Training. In this episode, as fitness industry experts, we're diving into the exciting world of biohacking. Join us as we explore cutting-edge techniques, debunk myths, and empower you with knowledge to optimize your physical performance and recovery. Thank you for joining us on this exhilarating journey. Don't forget to subscribe to Health or High Water on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value in what we share, please spread the word by sharing with your friends and fellow fitness enthusiasts. Together, let's challenge the status quo and unlock our full potential. Trip, how are you doing today, good sir?
Well, my man, I am doing absolutely fantastic. It has been a roller coaster of an emotional week for us, but it's come to a nice, so far, a nice, gentle stop, and it's just getting better and better.
And of course, we hope you guys out there in the world are doing incredible things. You're feeling great today. You're on a roll. You've been eating healthy today. You've done your meditation and breathing, and now you're listening to an episode on biohacking.
Our 18th episode, and you know, you guys out there that are listening and keeping this thing going, we want to talk to you. So I'm not going to do this very often. I'm going to put my email out here, and any of you guys from Belgium, France, Singapore, all y'all that are listening to us right now, shoot us an email. Tell us what you think about the podcast. What do you want to hear? Any other kind of guests? My email is tripascendpt@gmail.com. I want to hear more about it. You can make sure you guys are following us on social media. But yeah, this episode is going to be on biohacking, and it's kind of cool because it's a little bit similar to what we're doing with health profiling, my man.
Yeah. So what is biohacking in your words, and how is it similar to health profiling?
So biohacking itself is about how we can manipulate and use what we have already to its full extent, right? For example, what was a similarity is using genetic testing for things like nutrition. Mm-hmm. That's a way to biohack our life, right? So that's where it's similar. The difference is that biohacking only stops at genetics, or only stops at organism status, right? Like an organism or whatnot. We're not. What it really doesn't really factor in is epigenetics and its surrounding effects or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you have used that term before, epigenetics. What's epigenetics?
Epigenetics is just a fancy word for environmental things that affect us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Environmental, like where we're living, the air quality, stuff like that?
Yeah, so like let's say you have a low propensity for lung cancer, but you're around a lot of asbestos and develop it. That would be an epigenetic factor to that.
Okay. I love that. That's awesome. Man, what a great conversation we had last podcast too with Nikki. She brought on some really cool things as well, and I had to re-listen to that podcast, and there were a lot of things on there that, it's good to go back and, do some research on some of these things that, if there's something that said a particular disease or something that you don't understand, it's a great place to, stop, do some research, write some things down, learn. And this is probably going to be what some of this episode is going to be about, biohacking. And like you said, it refers to the practice of making targeted lifestyle changes, or we're using, technological inventions to optimize our health. It also refers to like performance and well-being in general. And really, it's a proactive approach to understanding and influencing. There's a lot of complex systems of our human body, to achieve desired outcomes.
Well, right. I mean, a lot of you guys listening to this right now are probably wearing Apple Watches. You'll probably have some kind of smart watch activity going on, or even an app, and that's part of biohacking. Is like, oh, I understand when my metabolism's at its highest, or I understand when my O2's at its slowest. These are all factors in biohacking. We just kind of cranked it up a notch with health profiling, using genetics for every single portion of that platform.
Yeah. So talk about health profiling. What's the first how are we applying? How are you personally applying health profiling? Just walk us through like a practical everyday situation where you see somebody comes into, clients working with you. How do you apply your health profiling methodology to get a better understanding of not only where they're at, but kind of the trajectory of the program you're writing and how to get them to their desired outcome?
So health profiling itself is us taking an entire look at fitness and wellness for yourself. Instead of just looking at certain aspects like it's only A, B, or C or whatnot. What we do with health profiling is we look at everything from your sleep to your stress, workouts, nutrition, hormones, your genetics, which are affected by, or genetics affect everything around there. Right? So applying your genetics that affect the entire spectrum of fitness instead of just looking at things individually. Like for a great example is if you go to a nutritionist and you have a problem, they're going to think of that problem through a nutritionist lens.
Yep.
And they'll give you a diet that's going to help out with that. If you go to a personal trainer, they're going to think of it as a personal trainer problem. You have to go work out. We don't look at that. We take all their perspectives together and come up with a bespoke, individualized program based off of your genetics that will work for you, which has not been done before.
Yeah, and that's so well said and articulated. Yeah, and you brought up epigenetics too, and taking that perspective, it's the study of changes, in gene expression and cellular characteristics that occur, like you said, without underlying DNA sequences. So essentially, it's the mechanism by which environmental factors and lifestyle choices can influence gene activity. And that's huge. So give an example, like give a particular example that you're thinking of where somebody's environmental factors changes almost everything.
Well, let's talk about the military real quick.
Okay.
Right? Like, you just got out of boot camp, you got your destination or whatnot, and let's say you got a high propensity for melanoma or skin cancer, and then they send you to Hawaii. Right? So you already have a predisposition. Let's say this is very hypothetical here. You have a predisposition for melanoma. They send you to Hawaii, and you're outside 8 hours a day. Right? And then another environmental factor. You're putting on sunscreen that's bad for you. Now we're double exacerbating the problem.
Yeah.
Right? And you already have a predisposition. Next thing you know, 5 years later, you have melanoma.
Yeah.
Right? So those are environmental factors that could exacerbate or create problems that aren't even there. Like even if you're not predisposed for that and you're sitting in the sun and you start putting carcinogen heavy sunscreen on, like that could give you melanoma too, even though you're not predisposed for it. There's all these different things going on: air quality, sunlight, radioactivity. Honestly, like I even think being at bars and negative places affects your epigenetics, like your mental capacity and whatnot. I can't prove that whatsoever, but I do think that has an effect.
Not yet. I guarantee we can come up with a study for that, or there is out, coming out pretty soon. And going back from epigenetics back into biohacking, like you said, there's nutrition. We're talking about sleep optimization. We're talking about wearable technology, mindfulness, and stress management. Also, we can get into, which is crossing over into my favorite realm, which is cold therapy and heat exposure. One of the things is the body has this incredible ability to heal itself. And so you've seen, Restore Hyper Wellness now is this big franchise that has cold therapy. Obviously, they've been using the Olympic athletes use cold therapy. Professional sports teams use cold therapy. And I've heard a lot of professionals that maybe they don't believe in it or something, which to me is kind of crazy.
Well, it's still a very new niche, right?
It's new from a retail perspective, from how to sell it, because you can jump in your shower for 0 cents or whatever it costs to run your water, turn on the cold. But also it's the practical application of, number one, how often should I do it? Should I be immersing myself in cold once a day, twice a day? So there's an application aspect of it too. But speaking from my perspective, cold therapy and implementing it, and even heat therapy and red light therapy, these are huge tools involved in biohacking. We use them here at Ascend Performance Training. They're part of our programs on deciding how to implement them based off your epigenetics and based off your genetics in general.
Right, and here's guys, the reason that this biohacking is important to present health profiling is because I don't know if you guys have gotten it yet, but we know that everybody's different. You guys have different things going on through your life. Some people have kids, some people don't. Some people have a high propensity to hold on to weight. Some people have terrible time building muscle. We all have these different issues going on, and we're really not talking about them because we're all lumped under this fad diet and internet crazed wellness programs that we're going through, creating something that Brett and I talk about called the Hell Loop. And if you guys go into previous episodes, you guys kind of go a little bit more into that. But I think this biohacking and health profiling is a way that we can eliminate the hell loop from our processes because we're finding out qualitative reasons why things work and why they don't. And that's why biohacking, again, I heard biohacking like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, neither was genetic testing.
Totally.
But these things are both been more prevalent the past 5 years. I mean, the only difference between biohacking and health profiling is that we're incorporating a little bit more into it. We're taking the spiritual side of it. We're taking the mental side of it. We want to talk about your scheduling, the friends you hang out with. We're talking about all these different things. And health or biohacking is really just talking about this, just the science portion of this, right?
Yeah, I want to take that idea. No, you're absolutely right, and that's a great way to frame it. I want to take this idea over to, and when Dr. Nikki was here, we just touched on this topic, but I wanted to expand more upon it, and especially with her too. I think she's an incredible resource. But stress management and breathing and the diaphragm in general. I had a gentleman come in today, and we were talking stress, and he's been through 3 surgeries on his spine. He's had complete numbness down the right side of his leg. Been to a bunch of professionals and numbness all the way down to his toes, and he's trying to regain it. And we had an incredible conversation, and this kind of ties into the diaphragm too, is about his hip mobility. So the body's amazing ability to heal itself, but the thing is we got to allow it to heal itself. And so when this injury had happened to him, the spinal injury, his body had started to protect itself by not moving. And so it had turned off all these muscles. And over time, once the acute injury had healed, you have to reopen up those muscles. And so I was talking about the diaphragm, and I had him do this exercise. And you can do it with me now if you want to, but it was a singer's exercise, and you place one hand on your stomach, and you make the ch ch k k k ch ch. And so what I was, yeah, I mean you could do it. And so what what movie is that from?
No, it's from that song.
I feel like that's from
well, it's from the Deadpool. Deadpool's in it. It's in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It's in both.
And he was doing the exercise to strengthen the diaphragm. And so some of those things, as you get into breathing, you start to look at the diaphragm, and you start to find ways to strengthen it. It's a life changer, starting to realize, hey, how do I manage my stress? Well, it's not a pill. We have to first start to think about our breathing. Our stress often is super correlated with our breathing.
Thank you for that segue, because I was trying to find a way into this.
Man, it was a flow.
That was a perfect flow for this. So what Brett's talking about right now is we're getting into something called the mind-body connection, right? Now we're able to understand what's going on in our body if we are aware of what's going on, and using these breath work, stretching work, mindful practices like meditation. Let's just be aware of these things. We are constantly bombarded by notifications, friends, work, family. This all just jumbled up into static almost that we're feeling. And taking time to do breath work and stretching and meditation gives us that accountability and awareness to be able to solve these problems. Mm-hmm. If you don't know the problem's there, how are you going to solve it?
Exactly. No, exactly. You said that earlier too about, the first step to solving a problem is identifying and admitting you have it, and that's sometimes the toughest thing.
Oh yeah.
It's the problem with some of this, like the health. If there's no pathology, and I keep talking about Dr. Nikki, but it's on the brain as far as what she was talking about too. Is like everybody isn't. You can't put them in a particular box and say, oh, your symptoms are because you have fibromyalgia or because you have diverticulitis. There's always a bigger picture to looking at people as a whole, and that's where we come in with health profiling, with studying the genetics, and so when you get a genetic test back, you send it out to somebody. We have a fantastic partner with Gene Planet. And when you send out their genetic test and you get it back, talk a little bit about what you're seeing in these tests.
We're seeing a little bit of everything, which is awesome, right? These new tests that we got are a little bit more in depth than our older ones. I mean, they go everywhere, from your absorption of vitamin D for these new ones to your predisposition for cancer risk or injury risk. And that's something that's a little bit newer to me with these genetic tests. But when I'm getting a genetic test back, I'm seeing how you need to work out. Your endurance, your power, your strength, and being able to split it apart qualitatively. I know what diet you need to eat. I know your biases on sleep. I could even help you come up with a program that would keep you that will help you avoid getting injuries in certain places. Like if you have a high propensity for ACL sprain, we can come up with some ways to strengthen your knee, make sure that flexibility is there, make sure it's more durable. So what we're doing is with health profiling and these genetic tests is what we're doing is we're taking a 2D picture that was our old model for fitness, and just trying to paint it that way, and we're taking it to a 3D model where you can see all the sides. That's the difference.
It's huge. And the results you're seeing.
Oh, Leslie, I know you're listening to this. 100%, you better be listening to this. One of our favorite clients, if you guys go back to episode 8 or 9, she was on there with us talking about her journey through this health profiling process.
Fantastic episode.
Great episode. She's amazing. She lost 12 pounds of fat, gained 3.5 pounds of lean muscle, 3% of her overall BMI, and 1% of her total fat in 4 weeks.
Yeah, once you got the test back and you started to change it, that's
started
crazy.
to implement those kind of things. And the thing is, you just don't know until you have the actual factual information in front of you. And that's why this biohacking is so incredible. It's a great stepping stone into health profiling.
It's great. I love these tests are so specific, and it's there aren't errors in these tests. Now you have to read these tests, and they have to be read by a professional. But this is genetics, and the tests they're examining specific gene markers, or variations known as single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs, and they're assessing how they may impact certain fitness-related characteristics. And those are the things that Tripp's talking about now, are these different physical traits, and that's how we develop programs around these. So biohacking is an incredible tool that encompasses a lot of what we do. Also in your book, Health Profiling, which you go into depth about, which, shout out if you haven't read Tripp's book. I had a chance to read it a few times as I was going over it. Go pick it up. I believe it's on Amazon. We do have a audiobook that's coming out, but it's called Health Profiling. And there's a whole chapter on genetics and epigenetics that goes pretty much into depth on all this stuff. So, please go pick it up. It's a fantastic, easy read. And one thing I like about the way you wrote the book is it's funny. It's not, sometimes we get serious and we talk about this stuff, but you make it so that anybody can understand it.
Well, and I think, so the reason that we have a health epidemic problem isn't because of us. It's not because of the people. It's because of the education to the people. Right, the education's not there, and the way that the information is provided is lackluster at best. Mm-hmm. Right, I mean, we talked about this before, as like the food pyramid was upside down when we graduated from high school, mm-hmm. and that was a unit of health for 25 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, number one, people are not getting educated properly. So, what's going to happen is they're going to eat improperly. So, and the way that we ingest information nowadays is not necessarily the way we ingested things before. We ingest things through very quick, entertaining content. Mm-hmm. That's how we digest things. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have a personality in your book or whatnot, like, people aren't going to read it. So I try to put a little bit of personality in there. I try to put a little bit of extra things in there. I got to give a huge shout out to Brett for helping me edit the book and get it out there. This book would not be possible without him at all. But it's again, I think it's a very useful tool to people that don't understand fitness, to all the way to professional athletes that might not know that biohacking, health profiling, genetics, hormones, sleep, all these go into a factor of a complete health profile.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I'm thinking about one thing I want to make a huge point in this episode, an enormous point, and kind of frame everything we're saying is, I look at you and you're a numbers guy. You're a scientific guy. You're a qualitative. You're a data guy. You look at the numbers. You assess, you're analytical. I'm coming from the other side, and, I'm Eastern philosophy, deep breathing, stress management, lifestyle. So one thing I want to frame on this too, as we discuss some of these like deeper scientific things, is that we have everything we need here on Earth. So as we add in these scientific, maybe this new study here, there, all we're trying to do is explain what makes us feel good versus what makes us feel bad. We're not reinventing the wheel. The soil still is great for us. Let's grow our food on very good, healthy, biodegradable soil. Let's take our shoes off. Let's get in the grass and let the electrons come up through us. Let's focus on, timing our nutrition. Let's focus on getting better sleep patterns and having better posture. So as we start to add the scientific element into what we're doing with health profiling, we're just trying to explain the phenomenon that we see with how to biohack and how to improve performance and bringing it to a scientific perspective. But it's still Mother Earth. We still are connected to the earth. There's nothing we're adding to the body crazy that the body doesn't have. And I love, when I'm saying this stuff too, I love, Liz Terry was fantastic on this podcast, and I can't wait to have her on back again. But I know she would speak from that perspective as well.
100%, and that's why this podcast is us being students of the craft. That's why this works. Our partnership works out so well, is because, guys, if you haven't learned yet, we're about balance here. There is great stuff from every aspect of fitness. That's why we brought up biohacking, because it's actually a huge chunk of health profiling. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a huge chunk of this. Mm-hmm. So if there's anything we can say is like, hey, like there's some great points. Hey, go out and ground yourself. Take your socks off. Get in the grass.
Totally.
Go out for a walk or whatnot. But like, stop putting your entire purse into one aspect of fitness.
That's it.
Because your investment's not going to come back.
Yeah,
it's simple.
It could be as easy as going out and getting sunshine first thing in the morning. That could be a biohacking.
Yeah.
Every morning I wake up and I go out and I sit out with a cup of coffee or whatever it is. That's an example of this. So it's something simple.
Right, and biohacking, all these aspects, every single episode that we've come out with is for you guys to be used as a tool, not a crutch. Mm-hmm. We try to crutch our way along. It's like, oh, we're going to work out real hard for about a month, and I'm going to look great in my my wedding dress or whatnot. It's like, well, if we were just eating a little bit healthier throughout the rest of the year, doing a few more workouts here, and moderating things, you wouldn't have to feel that pressure of trying to fit into that wedding dress or try to get Beachbody ready or look good for your Instagram account. Mm-hmm. What we're trying to preach here is healthier lifestyles all around with proper balance, and that's what health profiling is really about. And that's the difference between that and health and biohacking is using those scientific qualitative stats that are great.
Yeah.
They're great for programming, but you also, like you said, there's also these mentality things, spiritual, there's scheduling issues that we don't talk about. So that we're just trying to make a whole whole meal out of just an entree. Pretty much.
It's like the example of like just faking a smile. You're feeling like crap. Everything's down. Fake a smile for 20 seconds. And it works. I mean, granted, it's not going to totally change your mood, but it does work to produce, dopamine in the brain. When you fake a smile, the brain thinks, oh, okay. It's not magic, but these are just physiological things that happen with our body.
And then we're using them to our advantage.
How about, so when we do these podcasts, we get energetic, right? We usually stand when we're doing these podcasts. We have all these great ideas. And one thing I could give you an example of is if you slow your speech pattern down a little bit, the body's heart rate starts to slow down a little bit. Your stress levels start to go down a little bit. So there's lots of these examples during the day that you can use in your day to introduce this into your daily life.
And another aspect of biohacking that we not only preach here, we do ourselves, is writing things down. Right? Write down your workout. What did you do today? Write down what you ate today. How did you sleep? Because if you don't, how are you going to know the next week it's any better or any worse?
Yeah. Totally.
So, start, guys, if there's one thing guys and girls, there's one thing you guys can get out of this biohacking episode is start writing things down so you have qualitative information to bring to a health professional, whether it's a personal trainer, nutritionist, doctor, right? They're only as good as the information provided, and sometimes us as individuals and people, we have a rougher time presenting that information because we don't know what it is because we don't track it. And that could be, go buy a journal. There's apps for that shit.
You can say shit.
Shit. That's the first time we said a cuss word on the podcast in a week.
It can be said in the context, you get.
I'm going to say it one more time. Shit, 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 shit.
So let's get into nutrition quickly. I know we don't have forever, but as biohacking relates to nutrition, here's a couple of examples that you can take as far as how do we biohack our nutrition. Number one, out of everything, I think the most important thing, nutritional genetic testing. Would you agree? Well,
yeah, I mean, because if not, you're just doing something called the elimination diet, and that takes forever. And to add to, I know that genetic testing does cost money, but how many dollars have you guys spent on fad diets and programs and stuff that hasn't worked before in the past?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you've already spent enormous amounts of money trying to get where you are, and you probably haven't got anywhere close. So why not take the scientific approach, buy the genetic test, and know exactly how you need to eat?
Yep. From doing that, you're going to gain some insights, into your genetic predispositions. It could be related to your nutrient metabolism, your food sensitivity, and, even other factors. It's huge.
Well, I mean, let's break down food sensitivity really fast. I know we're running out of time here,
no,
but
you got time. Go ahead.
I forget what study it was. 4 out of 5 Americans cannot process dairy.
Mm-hmm.
How many foods have cheese in them in America?
I mean, a lot.
A lot, right? I mean, you go to a burger joint, anywhere Hispanic or whatnot, they're covered in cheese.
Yeah.
It's part of Americans' diet, and where most of us can't process it. So a biohack would be stop eating cheese.
And I think when you say can't process it, meaning they don't process it efficiently, like it's not, their bodies aren't utilizing it efficiently.
Well, you know what lactate is, right? The supplement.
Sure.
So the reason that a lot of people take that is because we lose that lactate enzyme when we're 5 years old, because we're supposed to start eating dense foods, harder foods, right? We're off from our mother's teat. We're supposed to be eating really hard foods to make sure our jaws are coming out properly, our teeth are formulating properly.
Did you say teat?
The teat, the titty, the tata, the nipple, the areola, the teat. But yeah, like you lose that lactase enzyme unless you're like Mongolian or whatnot, and they'd been drinking milk for hundreds of years and whatnot, and they genetically altered with that. But 4 out of 5 of us can't do that because we lose that enzyme.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other things too, like you're just straight up allergic to dairy, but I mean, typically that's what the issue is.
Yeah, no, you're right. Dairy's on a scale with people. Some people, very few people have no problem with it, and then there's a huge part of the population that just does not digest dairy well. Number 2, we, personalized macros. Carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, and working to find the balance that works best for not only your body, but your goals too, and finding ways to track it to optimize your energy levels, your body composition, and really your overall performance.
And that's all the genetic test does, is breaking down your macros. It's like, what's the percentage of what do I need to eat? I mean, like there's even times where the laws of thermodynamics are kind of broken because of genetics.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it can be the case, and it has been the case I've seen before. So understanding your macros over calories is more important because it's way more accurate and way more beneficial because you're getting all the nutrients you need.
What do you mean by thermodynamics?
So the reason that we do the calories in, calories out is based off the second law of thermodynamics, right? Energy in is expelled by energy out or whatnot. Okay. The way I've seen the past, few years is that's not really always the case with everybody. Mm-hmm. Some people hoard fat a little bit more, and I assume that they're probably in colder areas of the world that had to hoard fat to make sure they survived. There's exceptions to all these, and I'm gonna get crucified for saying this. But I do believe that us humans have found a way a little bit around that thermodynamic law because of our ancestors and their genetics, their genetic adaptations to where they used to live or eat.
Interesting.
That's why I don't believe in calories in, calories out.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about the caloric deficit
Oh my goodness.
obsession. Also, another one, intermittent fasting. Exploring different fasting protocols, such as, time restricted eating or alternate day fasting, or there's ways to tap into this to produce health benefits, and they can improve insulin sensitivity, they can support weight management, and even enhance cellular repair processes, which is autophagy. For those who like to do research on top of this, that's a pretty crazy cool, lots of studies out there on autophagy. Nutrient timing as well. What time are we, how are we adjusting our meals and our workouts and circadian rhythms to help maximize not only nutrient absorption but also utilization?
Here's a good question for you, and I know you know the answer to this is: should I be eating the same things at the same times every day? Not the same items, but let's say I eat breakfast at the same time every day. I eat lunch at the same time. I work out at the same time every day. Is there a benefit to that?
Loaded question. It's a very loaded question. I under certain circumstances, absolutely, but I can see there's circumstances where, maybe it wouldn't be beneficial.
I personally think that regimentation is everything.
Okay.
Your body will start telling you when you need to eat. Oh, I'm a little off today. If I work out at the same time every day, it's like, oh, I should be doing this. Getting yourself into a regimen. So it's the same thing as like when you drive somewhere and like you're like, oh my God, I don't remember getting here. Your body took over control and got you there safe because it knows what it's doing.
Yeah.
Right? It knows the motions. It doesn't need your brain activity to happen, and it goes off into la-la land because you do not need it.
Yeah.
That is so beneficial to that kind of stuff. I mean, that's what our ancestors did. They would wake up, go to the bathroom next to the river, take a drink, and they go look for food. They did the same thing every day.
I've always seen, personally speaking, the best results with myself and my clients when we're on a more structured routine. We're working out the same time every day. We're eating breakfast, generally the same foods. There's, you can sprinkle in different foods, but I've always seen the best results when you have a regulated schedule. So I am with you on that.
100%. And this dives into kind of the next part here is like your diet, your mental capacity, the way you physically act, it is all kind of determined based off your rest, right? If you're not getting the right sleep, your digestion's off, your focus is off. All this. That's why all this stuff is connected. If you're not getting sleep, your nutrition is affected. If you're not eating right, your workouts are being affected. If you're not working out, your sleep's being affected. Do you guys see what I'm saying here? Everything's circular and it's all synergetic. If you are lacking in one part of your wellness journey, another one will falter. It has to be all about balance in all these other aspects.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. So these are all examples, just kind of framing this too, so we can all get on the same page with what we're talking about. I know we're throwing a million ideas out there. These are examples of biohacking nutrition, and this goes down the list. It's not just nutrition; it goes into sleep too. We could get into, sleeping better, sticking to a consistent sleep schedule, creating a sleep-friendly environment, bedtime ritual or routine, limiting exposure to electronic devices. There's a lot of ways we can do this. So, kind of getting to the end of this episode and wrapping this thing up is this is where science has gone for fitness professionals now, is we want to look at all these factors. We want to break down health and wellness, and we want to look at all these factors and try to formulate a schedule for ourselves, try to identify the things in our life that bring us happiness, that bring us joy, that bring us balance, like connecting with friendships, like bonding with the people who are close to us, with calling our friends. We have these friends that are across the country. We never call them. Call those people. Say hi to them. Stay connected. These are things. Is there anything I missed framing this episode that you want to add in?
I think that this biohacking is, we have to take another episode, down the road for that, because there's just too much to go into one episode with it. But no, man, you hit the nail on the head here. Really, guys, it's about using these as tools to help us instead of using as crutches, like I said. The reason that we really want to talk about biohacking is because it's a very important part of our health profiling process. I'd say probably 70% of it, because it's just about all qualitative data. But there is other parts to being fit and well that don't encapsulate it.
Mm-hmm.
So as us being students of this craft, is to understand when and where to use these things, right? And that might be a process of elimination for you guys. And we understand that. Brett and I have been doing this, at least we've been working out for probably 30 plus years in and out of the gym without, taking away the professional aspect. Just trying to get ourselves fit.
Sure.
Yeah,
and when you say fit, we're not just speaking about physical. We're talking about mentally fit and balance. So always in the pursuit of biohacking and optimizing our lives, it's crucial to remember the importance of balance. While biohacking offers exciting possibilities for improving our physical and mental well-being, it's really finding equilibrium is the key to sustainable and holistic health.
Yeah, guys, balance. Stop throwing all your eggs into one basket. That's ridiculous. That we don't invest our money. We don't diversify that way, and we should not be healthy that way either.
What an amazing and enlightening conversation. I hope you guys have had a great time as much as we have had. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and it's going to be even better, even more productive, and even more balanced. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Health or High Water. I'm your host, Brett Hutari, here with Trip Parks of Ascend Performance Training. I want to give another short shout out to Kalevala Labs.
Ooh.
And should I do those sound effects?
Why not?
Laguna's Coffee. Thank you so much for supporting us. Also, stay tuned for a very exciting new announcement and partnership here at Ascend. We will be releasing that information next podcast.
Sounds good, guys. If you guys are interested in genetic testing, go to www.ascendperformancetraining.com. That is ASCEND performancetraining.com, and you use the code APT to get 30% off of those. And please like, share, subscribe. Every little bit helps us. Thank you guys so much for taking this time. This is the 18th episode of the first season of Health or High Water.
Peace.
Peace.